The Hanshin Tigers are lying. They are lying not just to Teruaki Sato, but to every fan who bought a ticket, every player waiting in the clubhouse, and the integrity of Japanese baseball itself. This isn't a contract negotiation. It's a time bomb aimed directly at the foundation of the Nippon Professional Baseball League, and the fuse just burned down to zero. What we are witnessing is not the typical drama resolved by a clutch home run or a perfect ninth-inning save. This is a Cold War fought in boardrooms, and the casualty count involves the essential integrity of the sport. We crossed the Rubicon when Teruaki Sato, one of the most electric, marketable, and statistically valuable players in the entire NPB, failed to show up at the joint contract resolution meeting. That absence was more than a scheduling conflict. It was a definitive signal, a refusal to compromise, solidifying a deadlock that is now fatally apparent. This monumental standoff began weeks ago when Sato discreetly signaled his intention to challenge the status quo, pushing for an immediate Major League Baseball posting. The Hanshin front office, initially leaning toward a diplomatic, non-committal stance, reacted with an instant, rigid hardening of position. A highly placed source within a major Japanese broadcasting network, intimately covering the Tigers organization, confirmed the severity of this pivot. The club side is now increasingly taking a hardline stance. They are not budging an inch, operating as if Sato's aspirations simply do not exist in their immediate. And why should they budge? The fundamental, non-negotiable structure of the posting system dictates that the initiative belongs solely to the club. Hanshin has absolutely zero obligation, contractual or moral, to negotiate posting rights or concede information to Sato. They do not need to grant his request for an early MLB leap, and this stance is rooted deeper than mere spite. It is rooted in organizational survival. This decision transcends one player's dream. It is an organizational defense mechanism against catastrophic precedent. If Hanshin were to fold now, allowing Sato to essentially force an early posting purely through leveraging his desire and possibly through non-cooperation, a cynical tactic known widely in Japan as gonetoku, it sets an immediate, player-favorable standard that would devastate the Tigers' future competitive balance. The timing could not be worse. The Tigers are stacked with foundational talents who harbor clear MLB aspirations, including frontline starters like Saiki and the promising Ishii. If the club allows this loophole to open for Sato, they risk accelerating the depletion of their entire core roster, instantly transforming the Hanshin Tigers from a championship contender into an expensive, high-turnover training ground for American franchises. This is not merely bad business for the Tigers, it is toxic for the competitive perception across the entire NPB. If loyalty can be overridden by a single player's demand for an early exit, why should any smaller market club invest heavily in high-potential young talent, knowing their assets will be stripped the moment they peak? The consensus among fans who bleed black and yellow is complex and agonizingly clear. They absolutely support his ultimate aspirations, but they view the timing as fundamentally disrespectful to the organization, the team's mission, and the entire league structure. The overwhelming emotional benchmark they set is the end of the 2027 season. Why 2027? That year is widely anticipated to be the deadline for the potential full-scale introduction of the designated hitter rule across the entire league, a major strategic shift that would cement the NPB's transition and potentially offer a perfect send-off. Fans demand that Sato complete his established mission, contribute the required time, and leave on a high note, cheered by a loyal fan base, rather than feeling betrayed by a premature exit that strips the team of its most marketable asset precisely as he reaches his statistical prime. From a purely economic perspective, the numbers confirm this emotional plea. Sato is currently projected to enter his absolute statistical zenith over the next 2 to 3 seasons. Losing him now, at the cusp of 2024, and heading into his power years, represents the single worst moment for Hanshin to sacrifice his on-field production and retail drawing power. The club's reluctance is also historically validated by the actions of league titans. When you analyze the contractual paths of established generational Japanese stars like Yomiuri's Kazuma Okamoto or Yakult's Munetaka Murakami, players who have consistently delivered league titles and MVP seasons, their trajectories were defined by long-term commitment and earning the right to negotiate international opportunities. Sato, while performing admirably and delivering key contributions to a recent title, has only truly elevated his statistical profile to consistent league title contention levels recently. The fear emanating from the Hanshin front office is twofold. First, the current financial model means the posting fee provides only a modest financial benefit compared to the revenue Sato generates by simply staying. Second, there's the very real possibility of an early, performance-related return from MLB, leaving the Tigers holding the bag while the player maximized global exposure without delivering sustained value in America. But the most fascinating layer to this contractual standoff, the layer that reveals the raw, underlying anxiety driving players like Sato, is the brutal, unforgiving mathematics of age and the MLB pension system. This is the existential clock Sato was running against. Sato was a collegiate draftee, entering the professional ranks at the relatively older age of 22. This contrasts sharply with high school draftees, who often start their professional journey as young as 18. If a player aims for the ultimate milestone, the 10 years of MLB service time required for the coveted full-service pension and robust lifelong benefits, starting at 22 dramatically decreases the statistical possibility of achieving that threshold. A high school phenom has a longer runway and infinitely more margin for error, allowing for multiple minor league stints, injury recovery, or slow development. For a college draftee like Sato, who is just now reaching the age of 25, every single year spent waiting in NPB is a year subtracted from his critical MLB prime and his pension eligibility window. If he waits until the fan-demanded 2027 posting, he enters MLB at age 29, leaving him only 4 seasons of peak performance before he hits the critical age 33-34 threshold where decline typically begins. Achieving 10 years of service time starting at 29 is virtually impossible for a position player, barring unprecedented statistical longevity. This fundamental calculation is working against him, pushing him to abandon the required organizational structure his fans and team demand. Statistically, college players in NPB are seen as the lower risk, lower reward options. They possess a higher success rate domestically because of greater maturity, but they have a sharply limited ceiling for sustained, long-term MLB success because their age restricts their potential career length in the U.S. The high school route, despite the greater initial risk, offers the high-risk, high-reward path for players who truly chase that 10-year MLB dream. Sato knows this, and it is the hidden pressure cooker driving his immediate demands. This crisis also forces a wider systemic reckoning within NPB. If the fans are truly the foundation, the lifeblood generating astronomical revenue, then the mechanisms of player transfer must reflect and reward that loyalty. Many voices across Japan are now questioning whether the FA system needs to be dramatically overhauled, perhaps easing the requirements for domestic free agency while simultaneously eliminating the international posting system entirely, or at least fiercely regulating the process of NPB returnees after a failed MLB stint. The emotional toll on fans who are asked to cheer on a player they know is leaving the moment the season ends is immense, and it risks corrosive long-term disengagement. And finally, we must address the sheer economic paradox of the Hanshin Tigers themselves. The club operates like a commercial juggernaut, driven by unparalleled fervor. Merchandise revenue is astronomical. Limited edition uniforms and fan gear sell out instantly, generating massive ancillary income. Yet, this same retail powerhouse consistently fails its most devoted members on the most basic level, ticketing. Fan club members report chronic difficulty obtaining Koshien tickets, forcing the club to resort to secondary FC recruitment drives just to inflate membership revenue. The Tigers are prioritizing short-term financial boosts and mass turnover of merchandise over ensuring their core, loyal fan base can actually attend games. This fractured business model, focused entirely on maximizing turnover rather than consolidating loyalty, mirrors and exacerbates the fractured relationship with Sato. The team demands loyalty, but the organization rarely shows it in return. The calendar still turns. Sato must still step into Koshien, knowing his future is hostage to a hardball game played behind closed doors. But what if this negotiation isn't about the posting fee, and it isn't solely about MLB money at all? What if Han Shin already knows his true next destination, a route that would step side the conventional posting rules entirely? We have uncovered secret clauses hidden deep within the collective bargaining agreements and specific Japanese labor laws that suggest a far more complicated resolution than simple posting denial. A resolution that could shock the baseball world and see Teruaki Sato walking away free without Hanshin ever consenting to the posting system. Next time, we dive into the fine print that redefines the meaning of free agent in Japan and reveals how Sato might already be planning his ghost exit. Don't miss this, because the implications will change how every NPB contract is written from this moment forward.